it down to Biloxi and turned it into something else. They stripped the pirate outfit off of it and became another deal. So I saw that coming, made a move to a Federal Express at the time, offshoot FedEx, offshoot called Cooperative Marketing Concepts. They were created basically to cater to the catalog industry. You're too young to remember catalogs. Imagine a time before the internet when you would get the Victoria's Secret or the Sears catalog or Chadwick's of Boston in the mail, and you flip through it and say, I'm gonna, like you would a web page, and say, I want to buy this. Well, you pick up the phone and call somebody. We handled call center services for several different catalogers, but most importantly, we married next day delivery with catalog service. Prior to that, if you ordered something from that catalog, they would process your order, put it in a box, wait for UPS to come pick it up, and they would just truck it to wherever you were going. So if you were ordering from something on the West Coast and lived on the East Coast, you might not see it for 3, 4, or 5 days. So we convinced the catalogers you need to provide next day air along with your orders. So we sold that to a wide variety of catalog folks. FedEx paid us handsomely for that privilege. And we kind of revolutionized cataloging and next day air because you can get it right away. You get to see that nice new dress or pair of jeans or whatever it is, try it on. If you didn't like it, you'd ship it back and you can do the whole thing all over again. Sort of a predecessor to the Amazon of today, right? And as time went by, that sort of faded. I was there for 9 years. We took our call center business over to the Philippines. We liked the Philippine accent on English better than we liked the ones that folks were going to India and Pakistan at that time with call center services. The whole speed of light and heavy duty phone connections, people were taking advantage of the other side of the world and the wage rates over there to do call center services. I wasn't much interested in going to the Philippines, so I didn't do that. And started looking around, and I landed at Carlisle Corporation, which was the 4th largest Wendy's operator in the country, in the system. We ran as many as 134 Wendy's restaurants when I was there in 6 states. We built probably 45 of those from the ground up, acquired most of the rest. And we were very well known in the system, and my boss, Mr. Carlisle, was inducted in the Wendy's Hall of Fame and was a Dave Thomas Award winner, and it was kind of cool to be in that system. Unfortunately, he passed away a few years ago. A little bit of internal strife with the family members and who was going to get what and who was going to be in charge of what. Became a little too much for me, so I put myself on the market. I don't do it very often. And Graceland happened to be looking for a chief financial officer. At the time, they were knee deep in a recruiting process through some of the major recruiters in town. They had 4 candidates that they were looking to make a choice out of. I popped in there, the recommendation of a friend of mine who works in an accounting firm here in town that was doing their tax work. Here I come, big personality, don't fit in the box like most accountants do. In a business that caters to 550,000 paid tours a year, tons of special event type work. If you pay attention to anything going on with Graceland Live, we're doing a concert series down there. Each one of those is an event unto itself. So they were very involved in doing these major events, including Elvis Week. If you know, who's familiar with Elvis Week? Hey, all right. Elvis passed away on August 16th, 1977. So Elvis, the anniversary of his death became a big event unto itself. And over time, EPE expanded it to a full week. Along the way, I also ran the Memphis Italian Festival, if you're familiar with that event. Ran it for 8 years, worked on it for almost 30 now. So the combination of my development background with Carlisle, my accounting finance background with all the other things that I had done, and then this thing that I did as a volunteer really put me ahead of all the other candidates for that gig. Always wondered if it would pay off someday, and ultimately I think it did. So I became the CFO there 3 years ago. So that's my background. Graceland is a National Historic Register home. The only more visited home than this one is the White House. That's why we said earlier privately owned. The White House is a public building. We're privately owned. It's owned by the trust that Elvis put in place for Lisa Marie, his daughter, in the event of his death. So when he died, Lisa Marie, I think, was 8 or 9. This trust was in place. It held the house, and any monies that it generated went into her trust to take care of her. She couldn't touch anything until she turned 21, which I guess it was probably not long after we opened to the public for tours. 5 years after his death, Priscilla, Elvis's ex-wife, brought a guy by the name of Jack Soden to town from Kansas City. It was 1982. And Jack was really sort of a stockbroker and a financial advisor to her. I think he might have been 32 or 33 years old at the time. But in a world of celebrity and big money and all that, he was the one man that she knew, that she trusted. He had never done anything like run a tour or a museum or anything quite like that. But the trust factor was there and still exists today. Jack is still the chief executive officer and director of Graceland. I think he's almost 70 years old now. So one CEO all this time, and it went through different phases of development over time. I'll try and rush through that history a little bit. Has anybody been to the mansion, been by the mansion down in Whitehaven? Okay, so, all right. Well, on the east side of Elvis Presley Boulevard is the mansion. Big, huge front lawn. It's up on a hill. Beautiful place. When Elvis bought it in 1957, it was the country. It was a farm. It was Graceland Farms. It was the whole area. They actually had their own kind of Hereford cow, or Graceland Herefords. That's, it was a big farming area. It was subdivided and became really kind of the first suburban development in Memphis, kind of after Elvis got in place. In fact, we got all kinds of films that we show in our new facilities, and there's this one that I love. It's Elvis bought his mom this pink Cadillac, and it was a February day, and it snowed about 4 or 5 inches, and they got videotape of her driving the vehicle up the driveway up the hill in the snow, with snow stacked up on the car, whatever. But on the far side, in the back of the picture, you can see Elvis Presley Boulevard is a 2-lane highway, Highway 51. It's a way to get to Mississippi, right? And on the other side of the street, nothing but trees. Suburban development happens, so what comes next? Strip malls. Across the street from the mansion, up came a series of strip centers that had, your typical retail, food, beverage outlets, things like that. But they were all privately owned. They weren't owned by the estate or by Elvis. We're back. And over time, EPE had the wisdom to acquire these properties across the street. There was an ice cream shop, a hamburger shop, there were clothing shops, and they slowly converted them into kind of Elvis-themed things. Ultimately, we owned all the property on the west side of the street as well. And that's kind of where we did our ticketing and our retail sales and stuff like that. Some events, we had a car museum. But that thing was built in the 60s. And Elvis has been gone now 42 years. And we're charged with taking care of Elvis's legacy and memory. We were taking care of business. TCB would be the Elvis way to say it, right? Taking care of business. In really outdated, ugly facilities that, I just drove up Getwell. Getwell between here and 240, how kind of run down some of those centers looked a lot like that. So we're trying to get ready for the next phase, or the next 30 years of taking care of business. So we had to come with a master plan. You can see here, this was done 3 or 4 years ago. We're over 21 million visitors now. Over 21